I'm Brittany and my husband Chris. We have 4 kids and we've been married for 10 years now.
10 years.
Whew, can't believe it. It's gone by so fast. He's been in the military. He is a veteran. He served in the Navy as a hospital corpsman and now as a firefighter paramedic.
Prior service, I was a hospital corpsman attached to a police transition unit in Iraq, and now I've, for the last 8 years, been a fireman. What I expected a healthy marriage to be was modeled by my parents. They've got a very strong relationship. That wasn't always the case. You know, as an adult, I can look back now and see that there were times where they struggled, but for the most part, they modeled a very healthy relationship to my sister and I. They never fought in front of my sister and I. They never let their problems be known to us. You know, it was always handled between the two of them. And so growing up, we always thought, oh, you know, everything's bliss between mom and dad. And then we come to realize, you know, they're human and they have issues and conflict that they had to deal with. But their strong suit has always been communication. And it's been something that Brittany and I have had to develop throughout our marriage. And it's been a struggle at times, you know, but it's something that we constantly work on and we constantly improve. And I would say, you know, the big difference that I've had to come to grips with is that it's not always going to be perfect. You know, marriage isn't just supposed to be you fall in love with somebody and then happily ever after. That's true, we are happy, but there are days where we struggle and there's days where we like each other a little less than we did yesterday, and we've got to work on that. And so that's been the hardest thing to kind of come to grips with, is that just because you're having a bad day or an off day with your spouse doesn't mean that it's game over and that you weren't meant to be together and all that. The service lifestyle makes it hard to be connected sometimes, especially if you look at Brittany and I got together right before I deployed to Iraq. I was fortunate in that I had a satellite phone where we were embedded, and so I was able to talk to her fairly regularly. But you know, there's the distance there. And then with my current situation being a fireman, I'm gone for 24 hours at a time and then I'm home for 48 hours. And sometimes that first day back isn't always a day back. You know, I'm recuperating from the night before, or you know, I'm tired, or there's things that I'm just processing in my brain, and then the 24 hours I'm gone. There are times where she'll text or call me and it's 4 or 5 hours later before I can get back to her, just because we're busy or we're on an extended incident. And then, like I said, the first day back, sometimes there's a distance there just because I'm trying to process the day before and go through that. And so that can be a wedge sometimes that we've had to deal with. Just getting used to getting back into the swing of like normal life after shift. My parents always modeled date night. Every Friday night they went out to the same Mexican food restaurant. And so that's something that Brittany and I would like to do more of. We try to do date night, but like I said, with 4 kids, that can be a challenge at times, especially as young as they are. One thing we do well is if I'm off shift and she's with me, and we're together, we always eat dinner together as a family. We sit down at the dining room table. We don't have our phones. We don't have the TV on. We're all together as a family. And that's important to me because that's one thing we did when I was a young man. And that's something that Brittany didn't get when she was younger. And so for us to be able to do that as a family, it's a big deal. It allows us to talk about our day and to kind of invest in each other. But yeah, that's the big one, is just eating together, being together, making sure that the time we have together is well spent. So some things that we took away from the curriculum, the big things were communication. We've always had good communication, but it wasn't always necessarily deep conversation. And so the knee-to-knee, like, hey, look me in the face. You know, I was reading something one day and it was saying that guys who have like my love language is personal time, like, you know, time together. And it's the same with Brittany. but it was saying that the difference between men and women is men can be hip to hip, but women want to be face to face. And that was big for me to understand that, you know, just because we're sitting on the couch together, that's fulfilling for me, but it's not necessarily for Brittany. And so the knee to knee thing made a lot of sense to me because it made me engage. It made me let her know that that she had my undivided attention and that we were having that dialogue. That's the big one, I would say. And then just there's small things here and there that, you know, the way that we talk to each other when I can tell one of us is getting a little amped up about something, we kind of, okay, well let's take a pause here. Let's re-engage on this in a second whenever we've kind of calmed down. So.
Well, I'm kind of a little different than Chris. I didn't have a healthy model with my parents. My parents divorced when I was 8. And so the model that I had was through my grandparents, who fortunately have been married for almost 60 years. So I really spent a lot of time with them whenever I was younger, just kind of, you know, hanging out with them and getting to see their interaction with one another. Kind of unique situation as my grandfather is also a first responder, retired now. So I got to see some of the stresses that they had early on in their life when actually he decided to retire and come home, like them adjusting to him being home so often. My grandmother would kick him out. That's irrelevant to the story, but it's one of those things that, you know, I got to be around my grandparents a lot and get to witness the relationship that they had, and they were very much in love. That was the model that I had, you know. And then of course getting married, like I knew whenever I started dating Chris that he was the one for me. And so waiting for him when he was deployed for 8 months was no problem. You know, I knew I wanted to marry him. I would say reality is pretty similar to his parents and my grandparents. We have made the decision that like we're gonna stand firm on our marriage, and we're gonna make sure that it's a priority, and we choose to, you know, be devoted to that. And so I would say that we model pretty well what my grandparents showed me and his parents showed him. To me, the biggest thing is in a 24-hour period with first responder life, in a 24-hour period, a lot of life happens with our 4 kids. Whether it's something around the house or something with their attitudes or, you know, finances or whatever it is, a lot of life happens. And so realizing when is the appropriate time to communicate those life problems to him while he's on duty is kind of difficult. And in our current situation, usually I work on the day that he gets off. And so we really don't even have time to connect or communicate about what happened or kind of reiterate, hey, this is what happened yesterday. Let's talk about it. We don't have that opportunity whenever I'm at work for 10 hours, you know. So to me, the communication is difficult because life does carry on. Some of the challenges that I also find with first responder life is that, you know, he's usually a little bit more quiet when he comes home and exhausted because we don't know like what the, you know, shift was like. And so it is kind of interesting though, because in our way that we, you know, homeschool our kids, and whenever I work, I typically work on the day that he comes home. And so selfishly, I want him whenever he is more communicative and, you know, alert and, you know, has the energy to kind of be with us and go out and do the things that we like to do with our kids. And so I try to schedule those days that I work on the days that he is kind of, you know, still tired, which doesn't work out for him. And so that's kind of one of the biggest things that we're trying to work through now, is make sure that we kind of balance that out really well. So that way he has his time to rest, and, you know, I respect that. But then also that we get, you know, a good amount of time with him whenever we are together. Well, as a family, I'll say we've been more intentional about trying to connect at the dinner table, kind of like Chris said. That was something that was modeled to us whenever I was with my grandparents a lot and him with his family. So dinner time is really important to us, but to he and I, it's really important that we have that quality time whenever our kids go to sleep. So we typically put our kids down at a certain time every night, and mom and dad have that time to talk. I will say it's been kind of difficult because in the past we've been not so good about connecting in the way that I like to connect, which is to conversate. And so, you know, we're kind of putting the phones down and trying to make sure that we're not distracted. If it is we drink coffee or a glass of wine or something and watch a show together, or, you know, talk about some dreams or goals that we have, that's something that I really enjoy us doing. And sometimes it rolls into, you know, we have we actually enjoy each other's company, and we belly laugh and we giggle about silly things, you know, and so it's good. It's a good way to kind of just wind down after a busy day and just kind of focus on each other when there's no distractions. For me, the thing that we've been implementing in our marriage since we've gone over this is the knee-to-knee, eye-to-eye. I cannot express enough, for me, even just whenever I am having conversation, how important it is to have eye contact. Because I am a mother of 4 and I'm constantly doing other things, it's important for me to have somebody's undivided attention when we're talking. And so with Chris, you know, he is okay with sitting here next to each other. This is connection to him. This is not connecting to me. Matter of fact, we had an issue the other night where we were just sitting there on the couch and we were both on our phones because we still fall in those traps. And I kind of had a moment when we were going to bed, like, I needed some more time to connect with you. You know, I wanted to talk to you about houses or something like that we were talking about. And he didn't realize that that's what I needed, you know. And so being able to communicate that to him, like, hey, this is what I need from you, he was, you know, receptive to that. And so we definitely try to be intentional about the eye-to-eye, and he's very respectful of me whenever I say that's what I need, because I'm always distracted. And so to know that I have his full attention is very important to me.